business leader, a rising business leader, and now a rising grassroots advocate. Joining us, and I'm looking at the screen, waiting for her to come through, but joining us all the way from the Gambia, this is Jaha Dukureh, who is the founder of Safe Hands for Girls. Let's see if the connection can come through. We like to keep things a little risky here at Devex World. Let's give this a try. I'll tell you a couple of things while we wait for that. So Jaha, and again, I'm guessing many people have not heard of her, but I consider her to be a groundbreaking leader in our space, someone who's changing the way that all of us will work. Her story is a really inspiring one. When she was just an infant, a newborn, and there she is, Jaha. So Jaha, welcome. Where are you joining us from?
Gambia. I tried getting to DC in whatever way I could, but traveling across Africa is a nightmare, and I'm so sorry I can't be there in person.
Not at all. We are pleased to have you joining us from Gambia. Thank you for making the time to be here. I was just about to say a little bit about your story. Let me just say a couple of data points about your life, and then I want you to chime in and tell us more. So Jaha was, as a newborn, subjected to the practice of FGM. I think she was just a 1-week-old baby at the time. When she was 15, her family married her off to a much older man in New York. You were here in the United States. You were able to escape that after a while and ended up settling in Atlanta. You now spend your time between Atlanta and the Gambia. So that's kind of a bit of her early life. And let me just say a couple of data points about where she's gone since then. Jaha has led a campaign to successfully ban FGM in the Gambia. Just a few months later, child marriage was banned in the country. She also successfully advocated for the first comprehensive survey of FGM in the United States, which is actually an issue in the United States, as we will talk about. And she helped to make it a crime to transport girls abroad from the United States overseas to be subjected to the practice of FGM. So you have had a remarkable rise here. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on the stage here, Jaha, is to talk about how grassroots activism has such a critical role to play in what all of us do. So let's just begin by talking about the practice of FGM and where we are now in the world on this. It's something that's been around for thousands of years. Give us the backstory.
I think, like you said, the importance of grassroots activism. For an issue like FGM, it's been around for centuries. And the reason why we haven't been able to eradicate FGM is mainly because a lot of the communities where FGM is practiced feel that ending FGM is a Western agenda. And as a result of that, they've rejected every advances that have been made to eradicate the practice. But then when you have women like myself who have gone through the practice, who are from the community, who understand what it goes through, there's no way you can deny our pain when it comes to us speaking authentically to why this practice must end, because we're not talking from an outside perspective. We're talking about our own lives, and we're talking about the future of our own children. So I think that is what has transformed the FGM campaign, because before, when the conversation was primarily led by international organizations, now it's actually led by women from the ground who are saying enough is enough. This is one tradition that we don't want to carry forward.
And Jaha, just to give people a sense, because I think very typically in development we can fall into silos. And I'm sure there are plenty of organizations here who say, yeah, I know about FGM, and I'm sure that's a really important and serious issue, but it's not what we do.
Exactly.
So let's draw the connection point, because it's something you do a lot. Why is FGM relevant to, let's say, health more broadly, or to education more broadly? What are the connection points?
I mean, I think when you think about it, FGM is the first bad thing that happens to a woman when she's born into our community. And female genital mutilation doesn't happen for the benefit of the woman. It happens solely for the benefit of a man. And then we use it to prepare a girl for marriage. We use it to tell her that somehow you are not whole until you go through. And then you have to think about the lifelong consequences that a woman has to live through when she experiences FGM, from consistent urinary tract infection to her lack of desire when it comes to sex. And you're depriving her of her God-given right, which is a health issue. This is no longer a woman's issue, it's a human rights issue. You've taken something so vital to a woman's body when she had no say in it. A lot of times, young people under the age of 10, under the age of 9, are forced and pinned down to undergo this practice when they have no say in it, and they grow up to realize that something that bad happened to them and it wasn't their choice. So it's a health issue when you're giving birth to your children. For instance, I have 3 children, and I remember every time I was on that delivery table, because of the scar tissue that I have from going through FGM and what that pain was like. So it's that cut that keeps coming back, because if you go through, for instance, type 3 FGM, the day that your cut is painful, the night that you get married is painful, and then every time you deliver children is painful. So it's a health issue.
And I know you've mentioned before that you can see a correlation in the countries that have high prevalence of FGM. You have high maternal mortality, high newborn death.
Exactly. So as a result of that, I don't even think we should look at this as just, that's their tradition and they want to do that to their children. No, it's actually, if we allow FGM to continue, there's a reason for us to continue investing in these countries, because health-wise, we are facing a lot of infant mortality as a result of FGM. There's a lot of fistula cases that we have to repair that we don't necessarily have to worry about if these women were not subjected to FGM in the first place. And it's not only that. When a girl goes through FGM and being prepared for marriage, a lot of times she's taken out of school, and that in itself affects her life, and you've subjected that woman to a life of planned poverty. So there's no way for us to get out of poverty. There's no way for us to empower women economically if we continue some of these harmful traditional practices.
So just to give people a sense of the scale, there are 200 million women in the world today who have undergone the practice of FGM. And I think there are 30 million who are at risk in just the next decade if we don't do something about this. I've heard you say in the past that you think we're at a tipping point on the issue. Why do you think that's the case?
I mean, I think being that I'm from the Gambia, for instance, we banned FGM in 2015. And I remember when I moved back when I started coming to the Gambia in 2014, doing this work was very risky, where I constantly was insulted for speaking out against FGM, to where we are today, where I'm celebrated as a national hero. I remember when I was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, it was one of the proudest things for my country. But the only reason why I was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize this year is because of my work on FGM. So it shows that attitudes are changing. It shows that mindsets are changing. It shows, because FGM is a cultural norm in our community. If people felt the need to insult me or even threaten my life for speaking against it, to now where I can freely walk in this country, to people celebrating me as a hero, I think that in itself shows that change is happening.
Now, this is a remarkable success in the Gambia. Talk to us about how you're trying to take that success to other countries. What's the grassroots plan?
So in March of this year, we launched something called the Big Sister Movement, which is an African-led movement against the practice of FGM and child marriage. I believe that there are so many amazing people in Africa that are doing this work. The only issue is people don't know about them, and they don't have access to resources or access to the outside world. So connecting that and sharing best practices is the reason why we've started this movement. It's the only movement led by African women who are directly impacted by issues like FGM. And we think that's the solution when it comes to ending these practices in our community. We need the support from outside, but it's never going to be the responsibility of the West. African women have to take the lead when it comes to ending FGM, and we have to give them the power.
I think that deserves some applause. Jaha, I don't know if you can see everyone here, but you've got 1,000 supporters here at Devex World who are feeling really positive about everything you're saying and really supportive of the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Where do we go from here? So, your organization is quite small. You and I have talked in the past about that and the challenges of trying to scale it. There are a lot of really large organizations represented here, but it's hard often to get the money from places like Geneva and London and DC down to places like the Gambia and small organizations like yours. How do you look at the global development system, the way it's set up, and how do you navigate that as someone who's running a small grassroots organization?
I think the development sector as a whole, if we're serious about ending some of these practices globally, we have to start investing in communities where these practices are happening. And for me, as a young African woman, every single day I have to keep getting reminded that we're not trusted to take care of our own issues, even though we're leading those solutions in our community. And as a result of that, some organizations tell us we're too small for them to give us funding, whereas the smaller organizations will tell us we're too big. And without that support, we've accomplished so much with so little amount of money. And no one can deny the effectiveness of our campaign. No one can deny the effectiveness of our work. But still, we constantly keep getting reminded that people can't invest in organizations that are based in Africa, even though these are our issues and these are our life. And I constantly have to reminding donors that for us, this is not a career option for us. This is our life. This is about our children. And we don't have a choice but to end practices like this. And if the development sector really wants to see an end to FGM, they have to trust the people on the ground, and that's where their money is. We can't continue talking about how gruesome FGM is. We can't continue talking about how bad child marriage is. We need to focus on actually ending it. And for me, I can absolutely tell you that FGM is ending in our community. I know that people tell me not to say this often, but for us, whether the funding is there or not, this is our life. We'll show up and we'll do the work.
Jaha Dukureh, I want to thank you for taking the time to be here, for the incredible work that you're doing. It's something we're covering at Devex. We'll cover it more. And I just wish you were here to see all the support, but believe me, there is so much support in the room for you. Thank you.